Well, it is Wednesday, December 21st. I'm Heather Childers in for Ainsley Earhart, and this is a Fox News Alert. Fire in the sky. Unbelievable video. This is coming in of this massive explosion that happened at a fireworks market. Dozens are dead, even more injured this morning. A desperate search for survivors.
That is unbelievable. Meanwhile, another Fox News alert. An arrest could be imminent in Germany as the manhunt for the terrorist truck driver and maybe others continues, putting the world on edge. And this morning, word of refugee resettlement hitting a record high here in the United States. We could break some records.
Wow. MTV facing a firestorm of criticism. I know what you're saying. They're still on MTV for this video of their New Year's resolutions for white guys.
First off, try to recognize that America was never great for anyone who wasn't a white guy.
Can we all just agree that Black Lives Matter isn't the opposite of All Lives Matter? Black lives just matter. There's no need to overcomplicate.
Also, blue lives.
And that's not all. We have more. Yes, because because your mornings are better with friends. But Steve, let's get right to something very important.
We will. Let us start this hour with a Fox News alert and a live look at downtown Berlin, where fears of another terror attack are mounting by the minute. Right now, the man behind the truck massacre in Berlin is on the run, and they really don't have a clue where he is.
Yes. Meanwhile, ISIS now praising its soldier for killing 12 and injuring dozens more during the horrific attack.
Yeah, Kristen Fisher has the latest on the investigation. She's been following it for us this morning, and you're live in Washington. Kristen, what do we know at this point?
Well, police in Berlin say that they have received more than 500 tips, but the man behind the wheel who murdered 12 and injured almost 50 is still at large. And with the Christmas holiday rapidly approaching, concerns are mounting that he or she could strike again. At first, German investigators thought that they had their man in custody. He was a Pakistani man who had come to Germany as an asylum seeker, and he was detained based on a description from witnesses of a suspect who jumped from the truck and fled. But yesterday, after more than 12 hours of questioning, that man was released due to lack of evidence. The police chief actually came out and said, "We have the wrong man. The perpetrator is still out there and likely armed." Well, ISIS has now claimed responsibility. They described the man seen fleeing from the truck as a soldier of the Islamic State. But whether or not ISIS actually directed the attack or simply inspired it, or perhaps had zero involvement at all, remains to be seen. It's also unclear if the driver acted alone or if he had help. As the search for the killer, or perhaps killers, continue, police across Germany are tightening security, especially around those popular, vulnerable soft targets, the Christmas markets that Germany is so well known for this time of year. Brian, Steve, and Heather.
Kristen, we thank you very much. You know, it is well known that so many people go to those Christmas markets in downtown Berlin. They're everywhere there, and Angela Merkel is facing a backlash of criticism because there were warnings that somebody was going to try something like this, and yet there were no barriers, no barricades, and no more than 5 police when the truck slammed into it a couple of nights ago, killing 12. It looks as if whoever did it did their research, knew that it was lightly guarded.
Warnings specifically involving trucks being used as weapons, which we know they did in Nice, France as well.
Yeah, we know they overpowered the Polish truck driver. We still don't know details of it, but the guy evidently is a huge guy. He's well over 6'4", they say, and that this guy had to have some type of weapon to overpower him as they tried to find out who did this without the security of having security cameras to look back on, although they do say they have over 500 leads. What's important to know, too, for the German people, they've been through a lot this year. 22 attacks with 7 terror attacks with 22 dead and 112 wounded, and many of them linked to the refugees that have been brought in out of the goodness of Angela Merkel's heart.
What was it, 1.1 million just last year?
Yep.
I was just talking to Pete Hegseth about that, and he said that was the number.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is Angela Merkel, who within the year will stand for re-election as Chancellor of Germany, she's getting criticism from her own party right now because of her open door policy. Because there is a fear that, all these Syrian refugees who they're letting in, they really don't have any idea who it is. And in fact, the head of the Conference of State Interior Ministers called for stricter border policies.
Really?
And he said this: "We do not know who they are and where they come from." Doesn't that sound exactly like what Donald Trump said on the stump? We
Absolutely.
need tighter vetting. We need extreme vetting because people are coming in and we don't know where they're from.
I mean, we all saw the pictures, or many of us saw the pictures of these little kids on buses trying to get out of Aleppo holding up parakeets. That's not the problem. We just need to know what's happening to them. If people see orphans out there, America's got the biggest hearts on the planet. But with this, the other people here who have devious intentions, that they owe it to, any leader owes it to their own people to find out who they actually are and what their intentions are.
And you would think that we would learn from all of this, but instead, we look like we're actually going to surpass the goal at this point, President Obama's goal in terms of resettling refugees. Since November 14th, 23,428 refugees. If we keep up with that rate, we will surpass the White House goal of 110,000 refugees.
Yeah, and you're saying to yourself, well, isn't there somebody in charge of the ceiling on how many refugees you can let in the country? And the answer is yes. Ever since Jimmy Carter, the president sets the ceiling, and it was very clear that this president wanted to bring in as many Syrian refugees as he possibly could, and other refugees from around the world. I mean, the refugee program historically has not been a problem. But these days, given the fact that ISIS has made it very clear, as this flood of refugees go through Europe, let's hide as many of the scary guys in with the good people as we possibly can, and maybe they can do some bad stuff.
I remember covering the Orlando shooting, and Governor Rick Scott said, "I have no idea who these refugees are. The president doesn't even tell us who's coming in and who's coming out and how many they are and where they're being settled." Governor Scott Walker has very similar complaints and said this, though, about the definition of what a refugee is meant to be in our country.
A refugee is someone who's eventually going to go back to their country of origin. I think the whole idea is ridiculous that we're not working with our allies in the Gulf region to make sure that a lot of those folks would be better suited going to some of our partners, some of our allies in the Persian Gulf area, so that eventually, when things improve, they could go back there. If they're coming to the United States, chances are they're not going back. That defies the definition of a refugee.
And so what Scott Walker has done is he has written a letter to incoming President Donald Trump asking for the states to have more authority over who comes into their countries, particularly from these nations where there are, terrorist hotspots and stuff like that. Because given the fact that, Brian and I have been on this couch for a couple of years talking about the refugees coming in at our southern border and elsewhere, and the governors of these various states, they have no idea who these people are. Keeping in mind, the states are on the hook for the cost of the people being resettled. Donald Trump doesn't want to do it this way. He would prefer safe zones in the various countries so they don't have to come here.
You mentioned Governor Rick Scott. I think there are like 28 governors across the country total that want it switched to the power of the states.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see because more and more of these leaders are being under the fire for the exact same thing. Meanwhile, Jackie Ibanez has been called into action early, or should I say late?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see everyone at home. Thanks for joining us. A Fox News alert for you this morning. A staggering death toll rising at this very hour after a devastating explosion at a fireworks market. Check it out. Unbelievable video. Plumes of black smoke covering Mexico City after a blast rocks its most famous outdoor fireworks market. At least 29 people dead, more than 70 others injured. The crowded market fully stocked with supplies ahead of Christmas and New Year's. Rescue crews descending on the charred remains right now in an urgent search for any survivors that might be left. The cause of the explosion, not yet known. And chilling new details in the brutal assassination of a Russian ambassador. Police now saying the gunman may have had help. Investigators from Moscow are in Ankara, where new clues show that the 22-year-old gunman, a rogue Turkish police officer, police staked out the art gallery turned crime scene from a nearby hotel room. The assassin's parents, sister, and roommate are also under arrest this morning. And outrage growing over President Obama's 11th hour crackdown on fossil fuel. The president using a 1953 provision to ban offshore oil and gas drilling in the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans. And it won't be easy for President-elect Trump to repeal, since he may need congressional approval. The Atlantic waters off limits stretch from the coast of New England all the way to Virginia and 15 million acres off of Alaska. All right, well, check this out. Santa Claus going high tech. Yes, trading in a sled and reindeer for a drone.
It's a drone. It's really a drone.
My, how times have changed, huh? That's YouTube star Casey Neistat dressed up as St. Nick. He's whisking through the slopes and high-fiving surprised onlookers, as you can imagine. You'd be like, what the heck is that? Neistat says no one in the world made a drone able to lift a person, so you know what? He did it. That's what I like about him.
Kind of look fake.
I find that hard to believe.
I don't know. At least
Get
the
him on the
end
show. Let's
part.
figure it out.
All right.
Flying Ranger makes perfect sense, but that is
No,
just without a
can't
question.
handle that. Too much for our mind.
Very strong drone. I don't
All
know.
right. Jackie, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, we've seen flags set on fire in protest of our president-elect, and that's protected under the Constitution. Okay in the country to burn a flag. But what about people who steal the American flag? We're going to talk to a legislator who wants to change the law.
And with global concerns of radical refugees in the wake of the Berlin attack, we already know how U.S. Democrats feel about taking them in.
There are a lot of refugees. We need to do our part. We by no means are carrying anywhere near the load that Europe and others are.
Is that really the right strategy? Morgan Ortagus worked at the State Department. She's here with her take on where we should go from here.
Morning.
Morning. Nice to see you again. How's it going?
Never looking back again. They're coming to America. Home.
Fox News Alert now, and it's breaking just moments ago. I'll share this news with you from Germany. Police there are now searching for a Tunisian man in connection with this week's terrorist attacks on a Christmas market. We told you yesterday police arrested a refugee from Pakistan, apparently by mistake. But by the way, he was there illegally and came under a different name. Regardless, though, this has thrust his refugee crisis to the forefront, with many on the left outraged that we aren't welcoming more of these refugees into our nation. Listen.
There are a lot of refugees, women and children, and we need to do our part. We by no means are carrying anywhere near the load that Europe and others are.
In this globalized world, it is very difficult for us to simply build walls.
There should be no question that we all need to do more in order to help people who are fleeing persecution and violence.
But is this really the best strategy? Are we the best next stop? Here to weigh in is former State Department press officer and U.S. Naval Reservist Morgan Ortagus. Morgan, welcome back.
Thank you.
First off, before we get into the staggering numbers of refugees that Germany's taken in and how they've suffered 7 attacks just this year alone and this huge political backlash, should we be doing more, or should somebody else be taking this responsibility?
We should have been doing more, but what we should have been doing is actually working to fight ISIS in Iraq and to stop the civil war in Syria. It's sort of frustrating for me to hear President Obama and John Kerry saying that we should be doing more, we should be helping. Yes, we should have 5 years ago, whenever their civil war started in Syria. We should have never withdrawn our troops so quickly out of Iraq, which led to ISIS taking over cities and territory in Iraq. So what's really important, I think, about this attack in Germany is to look and see, is this ISIS inspired? Is this a radical, or is this ISIS directed? If it's ISIS directed, Brian, that means that the gains that we've tried to make in Iraq and in Syria against them are not as significant as we thought.
You know, the thing is, they were given 3-4 years to plot and plan. They can now go out. They've put together the videos. They've provided the inspiration. So that's done. So let me see. What you're saying is, we let ISIS come out of the woodwork and go into Iraq. We took our troops out of Iraq. We really did nothing except for help Iraq fight ISIS while they took root and formed their own capital and country right in the midst. And we wonder if we should have more responsibility for the refugee crisis. It's all related.
It's absolutely related. And this really needs to be solved at a regional level. What I think President-elect Trump and his team should do is they should go to the very rich Gulf Arab states of Saudi, of Qatar, of UAE and say, this is a problem that you're no longer going to give to the West to solve. This is something that has to be solved regionally. So are there safe zones in Syria? Are there safe zones within your country? Let's solve this at a regional level, and then we can look and see what the West needs to do.
It's unbelievable. It was great, but Jordan's being brought to its knees because they actually have opened up their arms. What has Qatar, United Emirates, and Saudi Arabia done? Nothing, and they get away with it. If Donald Trump's truly going to remake the map and make people earn their alliance with us, he's going to make them take in their Arab brethren, many of which are Sunnis, that you would think would meld right into their society, instead of maybe blitzing the West when we don't know what's going on. Look at what Germany has done, and look who they've taken in. The German population has been infiltrated by 428,000 plus Syrian refugees, 154,000 Afghanistan refugees, from Iraq 121, from Albania 69, from Kosovo 33,000. You wonder why there's some upheaval in German society.
What's really troubling is I think that we're all getting used to this, right? Like you can now not go into Nice, into the south of France, and have a glass of wine in the summer without being worried about someone driving a car, right, and blowing up the place. The same thing in Germany. It should not be normal that you go Christmas shopping in a beautiful German market and you have to worry about getting plowed over. This is happening around Europe, and the first reaction should not be, what are we going to do about the refugees? We need to let more in. The first reaction should be, how do we protect our people? It's abnormal that you're in Paris. You can't have, a croissant outside without worrying about a terrorist gunning you down. This is not normal.
And we have our Secretary of State urging us to do more, and the President of the United States mocking Americans who have legitimate concern. In the meantime, everyone here is at risk. This is going to be one of the main things because we don't know who is actually coming in. Now, Morgan, the President-elect has said, I want to form safe zones in that area. Is that something feasible and plausible?
It is, but only if you have a regional dialogue. We, as the U.S., cannot do anything in a silo. So we're going to have to work with our partners in the region, with the Sunni Arabs, and we're going to have to come to a resolution, whether it's safe zones, whether it's them agreeing to take more refugees in. And really, the big winner in all of this chaos, believe it or not, is Iran. Iran is wreaking havoc in Syria, wreaking havoc in Yemen, destabilizing and threatening all of our allies in the Middle East, especially Israel. And so that's what we're missing here.
The runner-up on the runner-up stand is Russia, because they now have a bolstered ally in Assad, a alliance with Iran, and this new alliance with Turkey, which we'll talk about later in the show.
Yeah.
Morgan, thanks so much.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Complicated, but
Merry Christmas.
Same to you, but it'll be something on President-elect Donald Trump's lap shortly. Meanwhile, we've seen flags set on fire in protest of our President-elect, and that's protected under the Constitution. But what about people who steal the American flag? One lawmaker proposed punishment next. And this Notre Dame freshman won the game. But that's not what brought him to tears on the court. The Soldier surprise guaranteed to make your day. All right, quick headlines now. The Obamacare website busted for approving fake applications. Yep, the Government Accountability Office claims healthcare.gov gave the green light to 9 of 12 fake accounts used to test the application process. Marketplace is supposed to validate personal information like Social Security numbers before approving applicants. Not good. And a California community college going to extreme lengths to protect illegal students from President-elect Trump. The president of Foothill College, yes, there is one, demanding all student records are being funneled through his office, requiring a court subpoena to have them released. Steve, tell us something different.
A patriotic push to punish people for stealing the American flag. A Republican lawmaker is filing a bill to make grabbing Old Glory a Class 6 felony, the same as stealing a gun. Those convicted could face up to 2 years in prison. Here to explain more, the man behind the proposal, Arizona Republican State Senator John Kavanaugh. John, thanks very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I figured just stealing anything was a crime anyway. Why are you making this a special crime?
Well, I was approached by an Arizona resident who said that some flags had been stolen from display on front yards, and they were shocked to learn that it was only a misdemeanor theft, which is the same as stealing a pack of gum from a convenience store, and they thought that it should be more. As a retired cop and a professor of criminal justice, I was aware that most crimes, especially larceny, have aggravating factors that elevate the seriousness. And I thought stealing a flag that somebody is displaying was worthy of an aggravating factor, a bump one level up, for two reasons. first, the American flag is a venerated object to begin with. But secondly, and more important, when somebody is displaying the flag, they're doing so to express themselves, be it patriotism, mourning somebody who's dead, maybe even a protest. And that's a constitutionally guaranteed First Amendment expression. So when you steal a flag, it's more than stealing a pack of gum. You're not only stealing a venerated object, but you're stealing somebody's First Amendment right to express themselves. And I think that's reasonable to give it the same bump as we would for stealing a comb off the purse of another, or any one of the many aggravating factors that increase the penalty for larceny.
Well, it's an interesting idea. What are the possibilities, sir, that this is going to pass there in the Arizona State Legislature?
Oh, I think it's very likely because, I mean, there's a good argument. You're stealing somebody's expressive rights.
Sure.
In fact, we had a parallel last year. I live in Fountain Hills, and we had a Trump rally in Fountain Hills, and it made nationwide news because the anti-Trump demonstrators chained themselves and blocked the roadways into Fountain Hills. And based upon that, I was able to pass a law that increased the penalty for obstructing traffic when your purpose is to stop somebody from going to a political event or a government meeting. Because again, you're not only blocking traffic and inconveniencing people, you're trying to trample somebody's right of First Amendment right of assembly. These are important rights, and there's no reason why we can't say that that is an aggravating factor, just like stealing a comb from the person of somebody is also automatically a felony because of the way that you do it.
Sure. John, you just mentioned a Trump rally. I've got the feeling that you and Donald Trump probably feel about the same way regarding the flag and when people are trying to exercise their First Amendment rights and wind up burning it. Of course, you can't do anything about that at your level, but you can do something about it if somebody steals one, right?
Absolutely. And I want to make it clear, if they shoplifted from the store, that's still going to be a regular misdemeanor theft. But when it's on display, like at somebody's front yard or at an event, then you've also stealing the expression, and that's the only time that I make it a more serious offense.
All right. Well, let's see what happens there in the state legislature in Arizona. Senator John Kavanaugh, thank you very much for joining us live today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, season's greetings from Senator Chuck Schumer to Democratic staffers. You're fired. What he just did after the Dems' big loss, we're going to tell you about it straight ahead. And Assassin's Creed is bringing up the box office with its stunts, but could our own Kevin McCarthy be the next stunt double? He's here next. You can actually see that suit on Google Earth. But first, happy birthday to Samuel L. Jackson. The actor turns 68 today. Happy birthday.
All right, glad you're up 30 minutes into the top of the hour, so 30 minutes after the top of the hour of this hour. Throughout the election, we made a point to come to your hometowns to hear your views, but on one occasion, it was the entire show. It was the attire that stole the show. Heather, as we toss to you, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I believe that Pete is wearing what's advertised on our channel, an untuck it shirt. Do not tuck it in.
Yeah.
Untuck it.
Looks great, Pete. Oh,
There
as
he
he
is.
fixes his
Get
hair
ready.
there.
You have to untuck it because it's the only way you'll fit in your clothes after you eat all that.
He's getting to wear those
A lot of the
stretchy
mobsters
pants
do
all the
that.
time.
A lot of the mobsters do that. They wear a sweatsuit all day.
Pete Hegseth is taking the pulse of the people in Wisconsin. The voters there helped Donald Trump do something that no other Republican could do since the 80s, at least. Breakfast with friends coming up.
Untuck it. Pete Hegseth is having breakfast with friends in Wisconsin with his Untuck It shirt, a state that helped decide the election.
I don't know that I'm going to finish the challenge. Ma'am, do you think I will?
You might, but those buttons are going to pop right open.
It did look like an Untucked shirt.
It did. This morning, Pete is back
Wait
to
a
correct the
second.
record.
Yay!
Pete, as it turns out, while Brian was talking about how you were wearing an Untucked shirt, the shirt you're wearing right now, that is actually from J. Crew.
It is.
It's not an Untucked shirt?
No, but it looks good untucked.
It does look good
It's just
untucked.
not an untucked shirt.
It's so perfect because the creator of the Untucked shirt said all he thinks about is how to wear a shirt that's untucked that looks good.
Sure.
It's his
But
passion.
You know what?
Yes.
I think Brian has been fixating on the Untucked shirt because he would like one for Christmas.
And Santa heard that.
Maybe.
Santa
Get
watches
out of
Fox
here.
and Friends.
Look
Yeah.
at that.
Heather, did you
Can you
get
open it up?
Take a look.
Yeah, open it up.
Okay. I'm so nervous.
It's rifle.
Are we on right now?
Secret Santa gift.
We are.
Because this is going terribly wrong.
And
You
this,
should have done the Untuck It shirt as the infomercials.
I believe this is.
Wait a second.
Oh, look at that.
This is the actual Untucked shirt.
That is the actual
which is very
Untucked
similar.
shirt.
Steve, hold that up to.
It's pretty, Brian. I mean,
Very close.
it's going to look good untucked on you.
Really? You think I'm going to wear Untucked for the rest of the
you
show?
are.
I think that's the
I'm
goal.
going to send you to a diner, and you're going to talk to the people in your untucked
See, now
shirt.
that looks more like. That's more untuckedy.
You know what?
This is made
I
for
like
the
that one with
Midwest.
the little pockets on the front.
Could I say something?
You can.
Is one of my hardest things I do in my life is dress on the weekends because I don't know how I know how to dress up and dress down, but in between, this could change
Do
my
you tuck
life.
it in or untuck on the weekends?
I do something wrong. I get a shirt that should be tucked and I untuck it,
See?
and people go, "Your shirt's a little long."
But his passion is to fix that for you.
The
And now
creator.
exactly. Now you've got a shirt to do
This
it.
is
Look at that.
unbelievable.
I mean, that's your weekend
Fantastic.
attire.
Yay.
Right.
If I don't get a photo from you wearing that this weekend, I'm going to be really
We're
disappointed.
going to get
He's
him
gonna wear
to
it.
actually put it on during the program.
Good.
In fact, Brian, why don't you go put it on right now? No, seriously,
Really?
go put it on, and at the conclusion of this segment, or the next segment, we'll see what you look
Because
like.
we need closure for the segment, or else there's no reason for people to walk out here and surprise me.
We've got
No, I don't
Jackie.
need you to help me get dressed
I was
today.
like, what is going on?
Jackie Ibanez is going to do the news, and then we got the weather, and then we're going to
Perfect.
see you in your
Jackie, you
shirt.
just look
Pete
just
doesn't
like
have
to
to
come
come
with me when I change.
No,
Guys,
sometimes we change together. I'm following you, Brian.
guys
I'll make
have
sure you
done
do it.
that too.
Yes, let's go.
Oh my gosh.
And there they went to change clothes. So you'll find out what it looks like in a minute, and thanks to Untuck It, which I believe is an advertiser on
Yeah,
the
it
Fox
is.
News channel.
I like
All
it.
right. Meantime, 26 minutes before the top of the hour, and Jackie Ibanez joins us right now with a Fox News alert.
Hi, good morning. I missed
Morning.
much on the overnights, huh?
Yeah.
This is what happens in the morning. Well, a Fox News alert for you. A live look at Berlin where police are reportedly searching for a Tanzanian man in connection with the Christmas market massacre. According to local reports, documents from inside the truck used to run over crowds of people reveal that attacker's identity is a 24-year-old asylum seeker. He's a Tunisian man. Right now, fears of another terror attack growing by the minute as that suspect remains on the run. ISIS now taking responsibility for the attack, calling him a soldier of the Islamic State. An American mother kidnapped by terrorists in Afghanistan, pleading with the Obama administration to free her family from their nightmare. Listen to this. Caitlin Coleman and her Canadian husband, Joshua Boyle, seen with their two young boys who they say were born in captivity. The couple has been held by the Taliban since 2012, captured while backpacking through the terror hotbed. Coleman was 7 months pregnant at the time. So far, the United States has not responded. And Merry Christmas, you're fired. Incoming Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blaming the messengers. That's right, firing nearly every member of the Democrats' video staff. According to Politico, some of them had been with the Senate Democratic Media Center for years. The move comes as Democrats scramble for more creative and viral messaging after across-the-board election losses. And after winning their game against Colgate University, the Notre Dame basketball team helped facilitate a soldier surprise that will also win your heart. This is fabulous. Junior point guard Matt Farrell was told to look up at the scoreboard for a message from his soldier brother, First Lieutenant Bo Farrell. He started welling up, thinking it came all the way from Afghanistan. But after a minute, that's when the real tears started because Brother Bo came rushing out on court. It is so sweet. I love those stories.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, Jackie, thank
I
you
feel like
very
we have a
much.
surprise coming
Thank
up
you.
here.
Yes.
We do. Behind the curtain, right over there, ladies and gentlemen.
There they are.
Come on. Brian is
Look, I'm wearing it over my shirt.
It's a shirt, not a jacket.
But no, I'm just saying. See, you
can't
can
take
get
off
the
your
sense.
shirt?
I have to like. Right.
Doesn't it look
Don't
good
it look good?
It does.
It's a
It looks
perfect
nice.
length.
It's a good
right?
length, but I think
Get to your pockets.
So, can I just say, am I right? Do I look as sexy as I feel?
Yeah. You need to do the model walk.
I feel.
Here, Pete, stand next to Brian so you
Pete's
can see
judging
me. So you can see
It's
the
an
Untuck It
unintentional
and Jake
untuck
Crew.
it. This is an intentional
nice.
untuck it.
Wow.
We can both get to our
They do look
pockets.
very
Yeah, Pete
similar.
Hilfiger has helped me out here. Thank you very much.
Best advice for hosts
Right.
anytime.
Hey, I thoroughly support the Untucked shirt.
Yes.
I think it changed my life.
Just endorsed
All
it.
right, thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
I
you,
would-
Pete.
All right, thanks, Pete.
Yes.
Oh, sit next to
Thank you
Brian?
so
All right,
much.
I'll sit next to
There
Brian.
you go, just sit
I'm just
right
going to
there.
hang out
Okay.
with you guys.
You know what? It's Is it a flannel? It looks like it's a plaid.
Do you want to touch me?
It is. No, it's got a flannel feel
Right.
to
Oh,
it
is
too.
it? Oh,
Go
it's
ahead.
kind of
Everyone touch me. Joel?
You know what, Janice Dean? This is the perfect shirt for today, the first day of winter.
Yes, and it looks very Canadian, which is very attractive to me.
Yeah.
Very nicely done.
Wonder why.
Canadian.
I
It's
love
true.
it. Speaking of Canadian, my mom is going to be here later
Yeah.
on cooking with friends, so be aware.
She gave birth to you.
That and many other things.
Right.
And we'll talk about that. Maybe not the birth thing, but anyway, let's talk to some people who got up so early to come here. Where are you guys from? What's your name, first of all?
Randy.
And Judy. And where are you from? Delaware. And why are you here so early?
To see Fox and Friends and you.
That's a really good answer. What about you, my friend?
We're from Clarksville, Tennessee.
What do you think of the cold weather?
We love it.
You do. Excellent answer. And yourself?
I'm from Destin, Florida.
And thank you for being here. What's your name?
Mark.
And Mark, what's your name?
Kiara.
Hi, Kiara. Where are you from?
Tennessee with her.
Tennessee. All right. Well, welcome. Merry Christmas. Let's take a look at the temperatures real quick. You know what the good news is? We are getting a warm up. And by the way, it is the first official day of winter. The sun is at its lowest point in the sky, which means from here on in, the days get longer. And look at the warm up. Look at the 24-hour warm up that we are feeling right now across the country, which is kind of good news. You know, when you're dealing with the below zero temperatures, and now we're into the 20s and the 30s. I think that's pretty good news. Right now, very quiet weather pattern, which is great news, but we are going to be watching a stormy winter pattern as we get into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Merry Christmas. All right. Back inside with the Untuckit brothers.
There you go. Thank you very much, JD.
Okay. As close as we can.
All right. So it's the Christmas crush at the box office. So will the big name stars of the movies like Passengers and Assassin's Creed pull in big crowds wearing Untuckit shirts this weekend?
Right. Hey, Fox News contributor and the founder of NerdTears.com, Kevin McCarthy, got a sneak peek. Pete, why don't you take the rest of the way?
I
Enjoy
bet
the
he
suit.
loves this.
With his
Holy
reviews.
cow.
Sure.
Look at that suit.
Yeah.
Keep that tucked in.
This is pretty amazing. By the way, Brett Baer was wearing one of these last night at one of his Christmas parties I saw. So
Sure he
this is
was.
becoming a new
Sure.
thing now. This is awesome.
But you
By the
were
way,
first.
before we get to movies,
You were first.
Mr. Kilmeade, are you wearing an Untuckit shirt? Is that, it looks really
yes,
good on you, by
there
the
you
way.
go. Take a look.
Looks
I could tuck it
really-
in, but I choose not to. The designer made it so
I
I,
asked
wouldn't.
Santa for one of those.
That's all we need. We need like one of those jackets on top of these shirts, and then you'd be good to go.
Yes.
Open your
Exactly.
sinuses.
Yes.
So the first movie you're going to talk about, Passengers, right? Is this any good?
Yeah, this is Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. The idea here is that you have a spacecraft going to another planet, a 120-year journey. Two of the passengers wake up 90 years too soon.
True story.
And those happen to be Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence's characters. And they have to find out a way to get back to sleep before they die on this 90-year journey. The movie itself, the beginning and the middle, fantastic. The ending is very bad, unfortunately. I think you should just leave about before the third part of the film. And then I gave the movie a 3 out of 5 for that reason. I think it's a C. And there's a scene in the film.
The movie stinks at the end, and you're going to put $20 in it?
No. I said that the first 2 parts of the movie are worth seeing. Like the first hour or so is good. The ending I thought went off the rails. I gave it a C, which is like a matinee/rental. I don't think you should spend full ticket price for it.
Kev, I don't want you to give away the whole thing, but at one point, did Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt make out?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that. And he's actually wearing an Untuckit shirt, and so is she. So it all happens together in that scene.
Does it get a different grade if they make out?
Well, I'm wondering.
Yeah.
If all plays into it. Do you have a clip of your interview with them?
Yeah, and I had the chance to sit down with them, and there's a moment in the movie where he sends her a love note, handwritten, and says, "Will you go on a date with me?" And it reminded me when I was like in middle school, and I would ask girls out, I'd say, "Will you go out with me? Yes, no, or maybe. Circle one." So I wanted to know if they had that experience when they were younger. Watch this.
Did you do the notes? Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like there's an art form to the love note, and it's sadly past.
I agree.
You know, everything is
'cause they
digital
text
now.
now.
We text now.
It's Facebook and yeah.
like there's
That's
likes
sad.
and emoticons, but you know, there used to be like a whole prison system for passing a note. You know, where you like.
Well, it is, of course, the most wonderful time of the year, and that is a time to help and give back to those in need. So what are the best end-of-year giving tips that won't break the budget?
Well, Chris Brown is our friend. He's also a personal finance expert and the national radio show host of Chris Brown's True Stewardship. And he's here to answer those questions. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We got 3 emails real quickly. First one is from Mark in Georgia.
All right, and Mark asks, where does giving fall in my monthly budget?
Well, I'm just glad to hear there's a budget process. That's really, really
Exactly.
important.
Yeah, good point.
It's got to be a priority for us. It's the most fun you'll ever have with money. Winston Churchill said it best. He said that you make a living by what you get. You make a life by what you give. And so we've got to make sure that it's a priority. So for me, my budgeting process, I go to everydollar.com. I list down all of my percentages of first I start off with giving. How much do I want to give? And then I make some cuts if I have to. But I want to make sure it's a priority.
Yeah.
And it cannot, maybe you're digging out of debt right now. And you got to make it a priority. So it might be time that you need to do instead of, it's not so much about the
So not necessarily a dollar amount.
Right. It's more about cultivating this habit of being generous.
All right, very good. Jenny wrote in from Iowa. She wrote, I'm saving to buy a house. I tithe to my church and give $100 per month to a local charity I'm passionate about. I was advised to stop giving to the charity to save more for my house. What do you think? So that becomes kind of the big choice. Do I give to charity or do I put money in my, in my savings account for a rainy day?
Yeah, well, I think $100 a month is probably not going to make or break the down payment on a home. You think about the average home in America is pretty expensive. So you got $1,200 a year. I don't want you to cut from something that you're really passionate about. There's probably some areas in the budget that can be cut that you're less passionate about. Maybe it's the where you shop. I wasn't going to go there, but I guess since you said it. And maybe it's the gym that you're never at. I don't know what it is, but no, don't cut something you're passionate about.
See, that fits with me, the gym I'm never at, and you didn't even know it. Good point. Well, so finally, this is from Nick. Nick's from Colorado. He says, my wife and I want to give to charities, but we don't agree on what organizations to donate to. So what is a good compromise for us?
Well, I think it's great that both want to give. On the radio show all the time, I hear people that where one spouse wants to give and one doesn't want to give at all. And so what you want to do is sit down when the timing is right, put down the percentage that you're going to give, and then the places that you want to give. And if you can't agree, that's fine. That's all right. Just maybe you need to cut it right in half and say, you know what, you give to these for a time being until you can agree. The reality is, though, when you talk about just relax, right? We want to make sure that talking about money is not something that
scary,
bust your marriage. You want it to build your marriage, and conflict is certain in life, but drama is a choice.
Yeah. And what was that quote you said at the very beginning? The Churchill quote.
Winston Churchill says that we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give.
I like that.
Very nice. All right. Thank you very much, Chris.
Hey,
Merry
thanks.
Christmas to you.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
Well, President-elect Trump busy building his cabinet. So who is next to be named? Rudy Giuliani will take us inside Team Trump at the top of the hour.
And did you see this? MTV just made a new video suggesting New Year's resolutions for white guys.
It's awful.
First off, try to recognize